You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Call this meeting of the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I have at 7:01 p.m. We'll start by introducing members of the commission and staff. Commission member Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Thank you, Joe. Commission member Fred Russo. Fred, are you here?
Fred Russo is present.
Thank you, Fred. Commission member Joe Viuzzo. Joe, are you here?
Joe Viuzzo, present.
Thank you, Joe. Commission member Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, are you here?
Marcy's here.
Thank you, Marcy. Commission member Sharon Hutner. Sharon, are you here?
Sharon Hutner is here.
Thank you, Sharon. Commission member Dave Dyer. Dave, are you here?
Dave Dyer is here.
Thanks, Dave. And our staff this evening is our no longer interim but full-time town planner, Jamie Frederick. Jamie, are you here?
Me, Frederick, here.
Our assistant planner, Dan Robinson. Dan, are you here?
I'm here.
And our town attorney, Bill Aniskowicz. Bill?
I'm here.
Thank you, Bill. And I am Chair Chuck Andrus. We'll ask our secretary to read the notice of public hearing. Fred?
Will do. Legal notice, Town of Branford. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Branford, Connecticut hereby gives notice of public hearings to be held on Thursday, July 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. by remote technology to consider the applications listed below. Information regarding how to participate in the public hearings will be provided on the Commission's meeting agenda that will be posted on the town's website at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Application PZ number 26-32, special exception for an accessory apartment located at 73 Windmill Hill Road, Carl Chu, applicant and owner. At said hearings, all persons will have the right to be heard. Copies are on file in the Planning and Zoning Commission's office at the Planning and Zoning Department, 1019 Main Street, Branford, Connecticut, 06405. Written communications may be sent to the above address or to Planning and Zoning at branford-ct.gov. Branford Planning and Zoning Commission, C. Andres, chairperson.
Chuck Andrus, Chair. Thank you, Fred.
Yep.
We have one public hearing this night, but I think we're going to, that matter, we're going to open and continue that. Is that correct? This is item number 1, which is Carl Chu, applicant owner, 73 Windmill Road. This is a special exception for accessory apartment. And I understand that the applicant has requested we open and continue this matter. I think they need a variance before they can proceed. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes. Yep. They'd like to extend the public hearing to the September 3rd meeting, but have it open tonight.
Okay. So that if you're here for that item, that's item number 1. This is a special exception for an accessory apartment on 73 Windmill Mill Road. We are going to open and continue that matter to our next meeting, which is on September 3rd, also a Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. as well. So that's it for that. So that is the only public hearing that I believe we have scheduled for this evening. We have a number of other items on the agenda that we can proceed with, but I think that was the only public hearing. So then let's go then to our old business. Item number 1 of our old business is Donna Bates, applicant, Stephen J. Bates, owner. This is 37 Lamphere Cove Camp, Unit 37. This is a coastal site plan to demolish an existing cottage and construct a new cottage. That's not a public hearing item, but is the applicant here on that one? Yes, and what we should do, I did ask ask Dan perhaps to run through how you work this Zoomness, the process for doing that. Dan, you want to run through that?
Sure. Granted, this is not a public hearing, but to speak, please just unmute yourself. You're the only applicants here for this item, so you don't need to raise your hand because you're already here, but just announce your name and address for the record. Mr. and Mrs. Bates, in this meeting, just please present your application and what you're looking to do. And the chat function also works for other people, but public hearing again is not open. But if you were to use the chat, please state your name and address for the record. If you're just watching the meeting, you do not need to state your name. That about sums it up.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Dan. If you do, we prefer the chat mainly be used for procedural questions, I can't hear you, or things like that. Any substantive comments, we ask that you state for the record, state on the record. It makes it a lot easier if we ever have to transcribe things, that we have a actual statement there. So with that, then let's, Mr. and Mrs. Bates, 37 Lanphier Cove Road. You want to explain what you're proposing?
Sure.
No. Go ahead.
We have about a 525 square foot cottage that is in a little dilapidated condition. We are looking to make it more livable on the bumpers, on the spring and fall bumper. Right now it's uninsulated to begin with. We're hoping to knock it down and rebuild in the same footprint with actually a slightly smaller cottage, more conforming to the Lanphier Cove regulations. And we'd like to get started hopefully early October or late September.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bates. Anything else?
I just wanted to acknowledge that Trina Leonard is on the meeting as well. She is the chair of Utilities Improvements here at Lanphier Cove, and she took us through the process of being approved at that level, at the association level. So she's here tonight too.
Great. So thank you very much. Dan, do you want to review your staff report for this?
Yes. Yep. Let me share my screen. Okay. Let's see if I can go full screen here. Okay. Can everyone see? Let me zoom in.
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Yep. So it is around a 525 square foot cottage in the Lanphiers Cove Association. This application, as it is technically a new single family home, even if they're tearing down and building up one in the same spot, it triggered a coastal site plan application. However, it did not meet the characteristics to refer it to DEEP. So we are not expecting any comments from them. We did not send any comments or this application to them. The property is located in the R2 residential zoning district and is again part of the larger Lanphier Cove Association, which they got their approval for prior to tonight's meeting. And the parcel, of course, abuts the Long Island Sound. And this particular cottage is outside of the flood zone. So we can see here in red, this is the footprint, the new footprint of the cottage. The hashed line is the old one. And then this map in the top right here shows where the cottage is in the larger association. It's closer down to the water, but still elevated out of the flood zone. Here's a mock-up of what's going to look like, the different elevations, north, south, east, and west. So you can see it's on a pier foundation, a little bit of a loft area above for storage, but again, still within the same historical footprint. It's about around 16.5 feet tall, going from the peak down to the bottom of the pier foundation. This is just the cross section of it there. Here's an aerial image from spring of this year. As you can see, it's down towards the front, but still elevated above all those rocks and the Long Island Sound. In terms of bulk requirements, again, it's around 500 square feet. It's being within the same footprint, so everything is conforming in that respect. The envelope really isn't changing. The original house was built in 1938, and that footprint will be maintained going forward. The applicable standard for single-family dwellings for parking is 2 spaces per unit. The property and this cottage and the property at large has capacity for those 2 spaces. In terms of soil erosion and sediment control, the applicant will of course need to comply with the Connecticut guidelines for soil erosion and sediment control. Things like silt fences and hay bales will be required to ensure there's no adverse impacts to the nearby coastal resources. This is an image of what it looks like today from Google Street View. In terms of our coastal criteria, their project aligns with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. It's going to be within the same footprint. They're not expanding towards the shore, and they're using a pier foundation. So ground disturbance will ultimately be pretty limited. And it's not a water-dependent use, and it's not expected to be in the future. We did send it out to other departments to look at. The town engineer didn't raise any issues, and the building official noted that a full plan review would be completed when the building application is received, if the project tonight, of course, receives zoning approval. With that all together, recommending that the commission approve this coastal site plan for this cottage rebuild with the following findings and conditions. One, that the project aligns with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act and has conditions and modifications necessary to mitigate adverse impacts on coastal resources and any future water-dependent activities, and the condition that prior to start of construction, erosion control measures shall be installed.
Chuck Candace, Chair. Thank you, Dan. Any questions or comments from any commission members or staff? Mr. and Mrs. Bates, do you have any additional comments?
No, just that we appreciate all the cooperation and guidance that the town of Branford's given us to date, and look forward to working with you through the process. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Okay, with that then, I think it's not a public hearing, so I think, and it's under old business here, so I think it's something we can probably take up right now. This seems fairly straightforward. Association approved it. It's simply due to a quirk in the law, I guess, we have to bring these rebuilds before us now. But otherwise, it seems fairly straightforward. And unless anyone has any comments, does someone want to make a motion to approve the application by adopting the finding of consistency and the condition regarding the installation of soil erosion controls as set forth in Dan's report for this application?
Chad makes it. Take it, Fred.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. You got there first.
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion to approve by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo will second it.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo,
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuzo,
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy Palusi,
Marcy's in favor.
and the chair is also in favor. So the application is approved. Good luck, Mr. and Mrs. Bates.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Our next old business item is that's a special exception for an automotive repair. Again, we had received the application, but I believe that's going to be renoticed, and that'll be scheduled for our September 3rd meeting. Is that correct, Dan?
Correct.
James? Okay. So we'll pass on that one. That brings us into item number 3. This was the Planning Zoning Commission amendment that we had brought up last time. This is the regulation to comply with Public Act 25-1 regarding middle housing and parking. We opened, I believe, closed the public hearing, and I think at the public hearing we had discussed, Joe Chadwick had raised some questions about the probably a little extra stuff that may not have been needed regarding building design, and there are some things about landscaping as well. So with that, and I think Joe had made some comments sent some comments to the commission. Jamie, do you want to review revisions that you made as or as a result of those comments?
Sure. Jamie Frederick. So I sent out a updated language with some track changes and highlighted in yellow anything that was revised since the public hearing. I will note that there was one thing that was discussed at the last meeting, which I did not address in my changes, which was there was a bit of question around impervious surface area and whether or not that was something the commission wanted to include in this revision, given that it's not directly related in the same way that some of these other changes are to the state statute changes. So I don't know if you want to start off there or run through the presentation that I've prepared, but I did want to note that, and I can screen share the changes with everyone.
Okay, well, on the we'll tackle that issue, I guess. The impervious one, there was a proposal on impervious surface area to enlarge the definition to also include paved walkways. So, and I think Marcy, you had raised the concern about because we're tight in a lot of ways, that would possibly render some things more non-conforming and or make development difficult. And we hadn't fully analyzed that. And I had a similar concern. And this was sort of, I think it's a good idea, but it wasn't necessary to comply with the Public Act. It was just something that Jamie had suggested, and there's some certain logic to it because paved walkways are impervious. So, but it would be a change. So I would be okay not, holding off on that, looking at that further since it's not really part of that. But let's I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks. Joe Chadwick, do you think one way or the other?
I'm sorry. I was distracted reading ahead here, so I honestly missed the question. I apologize.
Sure. The question is one of the, in addition to this set of regulations, and that involves changes required by Public Act 25-1 for middle housing and the incidental things related to that, building design and landscaping and parking. Those are the things that were required by state law, I think by July 1st, to have stuff in place. In addition to that, there was sort of an unrelated area, the definition of impervious surface area that would be enlarged to include paved walkways in addition to other impervious stuff, adding that. And at the last public hearing, again, Marcy had raised the question, which I thought was a decent one. Oh, do we want to get into that now? Will that render certain sites more non-conforming or make it more difficult, new projects more difficult? Even if, in fact, it's a sound type of thing, but it's just something we should look at more, and perhaps we could defer on that. So anyway, and I expressed my opinion. Yeah, maybe we should hold off on that part of it since it's unrelated to that, and we could look at that one further. And so I wanted to, because that's one of the things in here. So get other commission members' opinion. So that's the summary of that. So. And I was calling you first, Joe. So I don't know.
That's the burden. Yeah.
If I can interject, I'm sorry, Jamie Frederick. I do just want to point out that there are some other changes to the definition that are not track changes that were made in the initial language sent out as part of the proposal. The track changes are not comprehensive from the current regulations. So I do want to point out that we would also be adding patios to the definition based on the revision. So we'd be adding patios and paved walkways. I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that.
So two things, patios
So
and paved walkways. Right.
If you wanted to revert the language back to the existing language, we would also be removing patios.
Okay. So that's the issue, whether we want to add additional things to the definition of it. Do we want to address this subject now? So with that, Joe.
They are in fact impervious surfaces. To include them now is certainly reasonable. I don't see it being a tremendous hardship.
Okay. Fred.
If the conversation about impervious surfaces is going to hold back the entire set of regs we're trying to improve, I say let's put them to the side. They're not that critical. It's more important to get this thing in place, and we can always make those actions if we have to. If we can agree on it tonight, then fine. Let's just agree on it tonight. But I think in the big picture is we should put this thing to bed. We've talked about it enough. We've reviewed it enough. And I think we should move on because this part about impervious surfaces is not critical. It could be put off. We could do it now. But what I would not want to see is having another conversation with all of this. I just don't think it's necessary. So if we can put this to bed tonight, that would be good. But one way or the other, I think we should move forward.
Sure. Joe Vayuzo?
My only concern is sidewalks are sometimes an option. It's our discretion. At the same time, it may be warranted, but the applicant is not sure if it's going to be included or not based on, not all the time, but sometimes. And if the impervious surface is close to this, I think it's 60% now, and the added sidewalks are going to change to a higher rate. It might interfere with the application. I'm not sure if that's the only thing I'm concerned about. But if we can putting it all together, yeah, I don't mind. And like Fred said, let's put this to bed and just do it, and that's it. But I'm not sure. Sometimes sidewalks are not included, or the applicant doesn't know if it's going to be included. So coming up with that percentage might be a little bit of a situation.
Great.
That's all I'm concerned about.
Thanks, Joe. Marcy?
Hi, I've done enough site design around here to know that it is going to have an impact on commercial I-1 districts in particular. I think it's important to use our GIS to do some planning analysis as to the areas that, are pushing or are over that 60% limit to understand what we're voting for with including pervious and patios. I agree by the standard definition of impervious, it's going to, that they're impervious, but I think that including them creates a little bit more of a hardship, a continuing pressure to provide parking in areas that predated zoning, and it could be an issue, and I'd rather not mix this issue with the more important issue, which is the middle housing application. So I'd rather just put this portion aside and finish the rest of the application. I'm not sure if that's what really everybody else was saying, or whether they were just, didn't have a strong opinion about the impervious surface area as I do, but that's kind of my take on it.
Thanks, Marcy. I'm reading the room, and I think there's a consensus agree with that. I agree with you. I think it's an important issue. We should look at it, but I think it would have an impact, because sidewalks will now be covered, and we want to encourage sidewalks. I mean, they're not going to put in sidewalk, whatever. I mean, there may be good and bad reasons. So I think we can separate it. We may want to do it, but not make it as part of this. So with that, I mean, and that's what I understood the majority of members to say. So not that we may want to do it at some point. So in any event, so with that, let's move on then to get through the rest of this. Jamie, did you want to review the changes that you've made with us now?
Sure. So just to quickly kind of run through everything. Most of the changes we made, I think, are fairly minor. In section 9.16a, we modified the intent to clearly relay that we're talking about zoning, not building code, fire code, and that those things would still apply. And then in section 9.c procedure, we're proposing to remove building elevations demonstrating compliance with design requirements established herein in response to the suggestion that we would remove those design elements, given that they're kind of broad and maybe not in alignment with the intent of the statute change. So this is being proposed to be removed for consistency. And And then speaking of those sections which we were looking to potentially remove, it includes the primary materials, roof materials, and building elements from the building materials and design section. This would leave the building materials and design section with unit configuration and utility and mechanical appurtenances. And Dan had the thought that maybe we slide those over into site layout and design, section 9.16E, to kind of consolidate those requirements and reduce the number of sections, especially since these aren't really building materials and design per se. Not a high level thing or a necessary thing, but kind of something for structural organization. There was a suggestion that the statement requiring if there's multiple buildings that the taller building shall be located to the rear of the property was removed. I think that that probably is in alignment with what the statute was trying to do in making these types of development a little bit easier to get approved. Landscape design, there was some questions about conformity with the existing 6.3 landscape requirements, which were just rewritten by the commission. So we took a look at that and we removed the specific requirements, particularly the foundation plantings, and the frontage requirement that kind of contradicts the frontage requirement that we already have, and added kind of criteria that identify things that the commission would be looking to have a landscape plan address. And then also from section G, we removed the gravel, pea stone, or mulch shall not be permitted except within tree or shrub planting beds, in part because I know that in the past the commission's kind of not been a big fan of gravel or pea stone as mulch, and be my personal opinion that we probably wouldn't want to promote those materials within a landscape bed for various reasons. And just keep going through. We did modify, we had a planting buffer between commercial and residential uses. We added a little bit of language to clarify where that would pertain to on a site plan. So we specified along any shared property lines or between the residential and commercial uses if located in different buildings on the same property. I will note, upon further reflection, I would probably recommend that we do not add H2, and that can be stricken from the revised language because that's already addressed in the last section of the new section. And then on the open space amenities, I would again recommend that we do not move forward with B. But there was a concern raised. We had a requirement that there be 500 square feet of amenity space per unit, and it was raised that that might be a little high, which I think is true. So on our multifamily zone for multifamily use, we have a requirement of 100 square feet of outdoor space per unit. We have 3 different options for the commission to consider. One is for developments containing 4 or more dwelling units, at least 1 outdoor seating area. Resident use shall be provided on the lot. Pretty general and open-ended for interpretation. The second one is basically the same, but requires that that be at least 200 square feet. And then the third one is that an outdoor amenity area shall be provided, and the area shall be at a minimum of 100 square feet per unit and shall include seating. Do we want to pause and see if the commission has any reflection on that, or run through everything and come back?
Why don't we just finish up and then I'm going to go around, but I'll call that out because this is one we're going to ask to choose whether we want to do any one of these or all. But let's, why don't you finish up because then we'll.
Okay. Yeah, because there's only one more slide. So these are the building design examples that we are proposing to remove from the language. And I think probably at this point, it might be easier to flip over to our document and we can make any changes based on feedback from commissioners.
Okay, great. So Jamie just gave us an overview, and I want to start, Joe Chadwick. I know you had a lot of comments and presented some written comments. So because of that, we're going to start with you. So Joe, what are your thoughts?
Okay, based on the discussion, I'm happy that the materials, the materials are going to be removed, and the sort of lexicon of roof types and building types are gone. That makes me happy, and I think the other clarifications are good. So I'm generally satisfied. And to step back into the impervious surface ratio, having spoken before I actually thought about it, the amount of runoff from a sidewalk or a small patio makes it almost, it's a non-issue, I think, in terms of impervious surface. So I agree with Marcy and on further reflection on that item. And if we pick that up later, we'll talk about it. But as far as the changes, I feel positive about that. I don't remember all three of the options on the outdoor space, but I believe that
What we'll do is I just want to see big pictures. Then we're going to
okay,
turn to the
big pictures,
options.
big pictures,
We'll do
good.
it that way. Yeah. Okay. Great. Marcy, you had some questions about the landscape, so I'm going to you next because you also had some comments. So
I do like that the landscape requirements are more consistent with the landscape reg. As I listened to Jamie talk, I was really trying to key in to how this type of development would differ from any other regulations that we already have in place. And just, and I think she's doing this, but recommend focusing on that being the things that we highlight in this regulation. I was surprised to hear the stone comment because I really haven't heard that along the way. And this kind of relates to the outdoor area thing. Right now, when we do, or what I've seen, I think there's something in the regs that requires outdoor space already for duplexes, for decks or patios. I think that's already in the regulation. So I think what would jump common recreational space would be when units are on a second floor and it's not easy to do an outdoor deck or patio, and then you need some other place on the site to provide a recreation area. But I think for this middle-sized housing, and maybe my instinct's wrong, but for 2 to 9 units, I'm inclined to think that we're going to be seeing individual outdoor patio space as the recreation space, and I'm wondering if that covers the intent of the regulation, or if the recreation area is over and above that I think it's 100 square feet per unit that's already expected. So that was just sort of clarification question. And then the way that relates to the foundation plantings with the stone, a lot of times homeowners and residents, I just did a planting in Guilford. They don't want mulch against their house for plantings. They want a stone bed. It's not it's I think it should be a choice of the developer or the homeowner, because a lot of times people don't want plant materials against the foundation exposed to the wood, bringing termites or whatever, a chance to be closer to the foundation. So I just don't know why we're focusing in on stone material as being an issue, when a lot of times in commercial, for a clean mow strip, you're providing a a stone strip to mow against, to allow for drainage against the building and whatnot. So I'm not clear on why this is suddenly a concern at this level of the regulation. But that was the only other thing other than the coverage, which I think is an unrelated issue. And I'm not saying I'm against sidewalks and patios being included. I just want to understand the impact of that in the coverage. So that was really my only, but I think everything else is looking good. I think it gives a lot of room to have, architects come in and do appropriate design, and I think it indicates that we expect appropriate design for these types of housing, and I think that's really what the intent needs to show. So
Thanks, Marcy. And we're going to go down the specific section, the options, and maybe the thing you mentioned as well. We'll review that quicker. I just sort of wanted to do an overview. Fred, did you have any overview thoughts?
I don't have any problems with what's been proposed. I agree with both Joe and Marcy. So, yeah, I see. Let's move on this.
Okay, great. And Joe Vayuzo?
Yeah, I just want to hear a little more about the open space situation. I'm
Okay.
not clear on what that means. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Right.
And as far as the stone, I don't have an issue with stone being used as well in place of mulch. Sometimes stone is might be a nicer design occasionally here and there. So I don't even know why we're talking about it. My opinion is it doesn't make any difference to me. If you rather stone, fine. If you rather mulch, fine. I think it's a non-issue in my thoughts. That's
Okay.
all.
Excellent. Okay, maybe what we can do now, Jamie, is you can put up the text again, and we'll go through the places that I think that we have options or we want to change. So the first thing you mentioned, the impervious surface area, we're going to not make those changes. I think we've decided we're going to defer on that one for now, just leave the existing definition. So we'll keep that, the present definition now, because, and we'll review that later.
All right, so
So-
I'm going to reinsert that language. Formatted a bit funny, but it's there. So we'll leave it the way that it currently is.
Okay. Okay. And then keep scrolling down. I don't think there are any comments on the addition, the deletions. I think that you just passed over. And those, the zones,
Yep, we didn't do any.
yeah, we didn't
changes there.
change anything there. Those are just simply indicating that the use is allowed in those zones, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And adding minimum lot area or minimum area per unit where there was none.
Okay. And then, and we're still going through that. What's this? This
This
is
is the updated use table defining middle housing 2 through 9 units
right.
and multifamily is 10 or more. And I believe we removed duplex because that arguably would fall within middle housing or potentially multifamily, depending how many. Parking requirements, we didn't have any changes here beyond what was initially proposed of complying with the statute. And then we added the parking needs assessment language for essentially providing an option for a developer to provide rationale of why they don't need a certain number of parking spaces. Middle housing, the yellow highlights are the changes since our last meeting. Again, it's just speaking to the zoning authority versus other authorities.
Okay. If anyone has anything now that we're seeing it again, we'll just keep going. And I think there's no changes to
No
the
changes
there.
to applicability. Then under procedure, we removed the building elevations demonstrating compliance with the design requirements established herein because we removed those from the regulation.
Right.
Just ask a quick
And-
question structurally. So does this cover both 2 to 9 and 10 and over, or is there
No,
a separate section for 10 and over now?
10 and over would fall under multi-family housing.
And
It
we
would
already have
fall
a
under
section for
what
that?
already, it falls under whatever already exists for permitting that within various zones.
So we already have that, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so basically we just reworded it. Let me see if
I understand. I just wasn't clear that this was specifically for 2 through 9, which I get that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, before it was multifamily dwelling units. So
And you took out 2 family. which is
Yep.
now essentially 2 through 9, and then multifamily is 10 and up.
Correct.
Got it.
So this is where we were saying 9.16D, building materials and design. We removed primary materials, roof materials and building elements and roof types. So we have unit configuration and unit and mechanical apparatuses. And then we have site layout and design, parking, no changes, building orientation and layout. Proposal to remove that the taller building shall be located to the rear of the property. Don't have any issues with that revision. Landscape design. Again, we removed the foundation planting requirement based on the conversation at the last meeting. We removed the street tree requirement because it doesn't align with what we have in 6.3. We added, again, kind of language to reiterate the things that would be pertinent to residential development from the landscape regulations to kind of drive home what it is we're looking for in a landscape plan. I will clarify, my proposal to remove this is not to say that gravel or pea stone is inappropriate, but similar in the way to removing the other design standards. It's to not say that we know what's best. And I would argue it almost allows you to use gravel and pea stone in a more comprehensive way on site by removing it. I have no problem with not removing it if the commission wants to keep it. But I will mention that I do think it is a problem on some sites, not so much particularly perhaps middle housing and what this would pertain to, but there are downsides to using gravel or stone mulch, and part of it is it does change the maintenance requirements. If the planting plan wasn't designed based on a stone mulch, that can have an impact on the survivability of the plants. A lot of times a stone mulch will retain a lot more heat, so it increases the heat island effect for the property. So if you have really high impervious property and then they put all stone mulch down, that site's going to be a lot hotter than if you have a natural mulch. So that's the reason why I was proposing that we maybe consider just scratching that comment.
So are I think, are we okay just deleting that as proposed?
Well, plans are required to be submitted by a landscape architect, are they not?
Six 6.3, unless it's waived or something. I think we
Yeah,
gave us
yeah,
some fuzzy
and-
language.
I'm just speaking,
Right.
if it's,
Okay.
then it's the same theory as we're doing with the architecture, that, that you're relying on the professional to propose. I mean, I think the one thing, you've done it with the landscaping, expecting a level of landscaping and appropriateness, with some of the language that, that supports the other section. We've taken out a lot of the architecture, but is there a general statement that we should be making? And Joe Chadwick chime in to just indicate that a higher level of design, detail, and finish is expected, or, and then they have to convince us. I mean, if you can't codify that, but and obviously Bill's got his hand up, so I'll let him talk.
Bill?
Bill Anaskovich, Town Attorney. I just want to caution us right now that this is a set of regulations that are intended to comply with 25-1. That statute requires a summary review process that is non-discretionary and non-burdensome. Once we start incorporating those kinds of general statements into this language, we render our regulation more vulnerable to an appeal. And as the town attorney, it behooves me to say that while all of these policy discussions are pertinent and valuable and important, there's a reason that we can't simply say the landscape design standards for middle housing shall be what's in 6.3. The whole point of the statute, whether we like it or not, is to take away the discretion that's afforded to a zoning commission with respect to middle housing projects. And I think that that's reflected in what Jamie has put in front of you. So I just think it's important to emphasize that before we wander off into generalities and get ourselves into a situation where we might be crafting something that, while it makes sense, is more vulnerable to appeal.
Thanks, Bill. So I was just trying to make sure we had the language down, and there was some discussion about gravel. I'm fine with striking it because it allows more flexibility if it's stricken. That says this is something you can't do, and maybe you can. So I'm fine with that. Everyone okay with that? Okay. So then continuing on, then H was I think you had highlighted that.
Yeah, this was the landscape buffer between
Right.
residential and commercial uses. And so we identified where it would be applicable to, and then I had proposed this language for redevelopment, understanding that there are cases where their existing conditions would be in conflict. I would probably recommend that we just strike this section because I'm just going to jump real quick. At the very end, we have 9.16H administrative adjustments, and it includes the strict compliance of the standard wood due to demonstrated physical conditions of the site, existing building constraints, access, drainage, utility layout, yada, yada, yada. It allows for relief from the design standards through this 9.16H administrative adjustment review process. So I don't think this language is necessary, and I would actually recommend that we strike it.
Okay, I'm fine with you striking that. Anytime the word waiver is used, you open yourself up to a McKenzie challenge. That's so I'm fine with that. And you're right, it's covered by that other section. So okay, so you deleted that, and then you can continue on now. I think you deleted that.
Yep, that was per Joe Chadwick's comment.
Right.
And I think that it's fine. Stormwater drainage, we didn't have any further changes to that section. Open space and resident amenities is section that we need to discuss. I'm just gonna again recommend that we delete this. It's the same language that we just deleted above.
Okay, so we got three options for this for the open space, right?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have a recommendation, or what do you think?
I think it's kind of, I mean, I think A probably aligns most with the intent of the statutes, not having written the statutes, in the sense that it asks for some sort of amenity space to be provided, but it doesn't really define it or put any sort of strict requirement in place. Yeah.
Okay. Dan, any thoughts one way or the other?
Yeah, I agree with Jamie about A there. A lot of times, I mean, the original language there was 500 square feet. I know we took that out, but sometimes some amenity space requirements can be prohibitive to development, and that is kind of against the spirit of Public Act 25-1. So for that reason, I think A makes sense, or at least the last one, which is 100 square feet, which is still less than 500, which we originally had, but I like A.
Okay. So Jamie says maybe A, Dan says maybe A or possibly C or whatever the third one. So anyone have any thoughts?
Oh, sorry, correction, B.
B.
B is the one that just says 200 square feet for the entire development, not per unit.
Okay, so you would do the first two.
I could.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know which one's easier for people to look at without the track changes, or.
Okay, I'm fine with A, the first one, number one. What, want to go around? Joe Chadwick, any preference?
I think 200 square feet per development is awfully stingy, um, especially if there are children involved, especially if there's, 10 units, sort of the maximum number of units within this. Um, it's the competition for that outdoor space would be kind of high. I feel better about the 100 option.
Jamie, can you put the other one up so it's easier to
Yeah.
read?
Sorry.
Okay. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 100 square
Sorry.
feet per unit. That's only a 10 by 10 space per unit. And a 2,200 square feet is 10 by 20, which is smaller than, anybody's backyard that I know of. And to have that for an entire unit just seems way too constricted. I mean, it's just you cannot have, it's such a token amount. So 100 square feet per unit. If you have 5 units, it's about 500 square feet. It's within the range of reason on an urban lot. So I feel that's probably a more defensible quantity.
Okay. I'm going to ask that you please, the public hearing's closed. We can't accept additional public comments, so please don't give any substantive comments in the chat. So do you have a preference as to which you're looking at number 3?
Yeah, C. The
C.
third option, 100 square feet per unit.
Did we lose Chuck?
They may have.
Want to give him a minute, or shall we keep going down the line?
Give him a minute.
I think you have to. I think you have to give him a minute, unless you hand the chair to someone else. You technically have no chair at the moment.
Wouldn't dare do that.
It's an interesting situation. We need a new section of Robert's Rules of Order for when a connection drops out.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I hate to even suggest this, but it would be the same as if the drop was in person. if you know what I mean. No, I mean, like, what would you do? I mean,
yeah, no, it's
You call the paramedics.
yeah, exactly. You would pause the meeting, which is exactly what we're doing. Here we go. That's a doorbell.
That's Joe Vayuzo.
Oh,
No, I think that's Chuck.
There he is.
You back?
Gotta unmute yourself, Chuck.
I keep hearing the doorbell myself. I don't know where it's coming from. If it's coming from me, I have no idea why.
He's
Chuck,
on the
you're
screen,
on-
but he's muted.
Chuck, you're still
he's
muted.
You're muted.
Okay. Sorry about that. I plugged in. I forgot to plug in my computer, so I ran out of power. So I apologize. I'm going to try to log into my computer again, but in the meantime, I'm on my phone. My apologies. So we were trying to go through which options, and my understanding, Joe, did you agree as to which one?
Yes. Item C, 100 square feet per unit.
Okay, that's number 3 there. Okay, so did we go on? Fred, do you have a preference?
The word that gets me, it says minimum. It doesn't say the maximum, whether it's 100 or 200. So it seems like regardless of what we select, there's some leeway to increase the amount that is being recommended. I think I would go with option number 2.
Okay. Option 2 for Fred. Joe Ayuso, do you have a preference?
All right. I'm trying to get a preference, but I think I'm going to go with Joe Chadwick in regards to 100 square feet. Number 3, I think he said it was 100 per square feet per unit. I think that's a reasonable start. And like he said, it's not a lot. And if there's 4 or 5 units, then it gets to be something that at least is reasonably usable. 100 square feet is very tiny, 10 by 10.
Chuck, you're muted again.
Sorry. Marcy, do you have any thoughts?
I'm a little confused whether this is an addition to private amenity space per unit and it's held in common. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Jamie Frederick. So the way this is written, it would be a common area. So like I was saying earlier, in our multifamily district for multifamily housing, we do have a requirement of 100 square feet per unit, and that is a unit specific number, but that does not apply to middle housing. So this would be the only amenity requirement for middle housing. I believe IHOG, we also have an amenity requirement that does not apply to middle housing. So this would be the standalone requirement for a development of 2 to 9 units, assuming it's going through this middle housing approval process.
Okay. So I guess what I'm hearing is a developer could come in and provide decks per the units, that are dedicated to the unit, but then this would require them to, in addition, provide common amenity space for everyone.
So I think it depends on which one you look at. So when I wrote the third option, I was trying to provide flexibility. So that's why I say outdoor amenity area or areas. So it could be a common area or it could be independent areas. The way the second one is written, it does speak specifically to common, but it also says, so the third one doesn't include that common word.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like this should be common amenity area, and it should increase with the number of units proposed. So if it's 2 units, a bench or some incidental small space is, taking 200 square feet would be appropriate. But if it's 9 units, I don't feel like that would be appropriate, and I would lean towards 3. I mean, I think there's nothing in this that prevents dedicated space to be attached to the units, which I do like, which would be consistent, like you said, with the 10 and up. But I do think because there's no dedicated space that's required, that we need to be a little bit more generous with the common space. And and to me, it reads like it should be a common amenity, not a dedicated amenity. But so I guess I'm saying number 3.
Okay. So I hear 3 I've heard mentioned by most people. So do you want to add the word common before the word amenity? Or
I think that's where I'm leaning.
Okay. Why don't you add that word, Jamie?
Okay.
And then, it sounds like the consensus is to go with number 3 then for that.
Yeah, and I think the minimum is the 100 square feet is the requirement, and I think minimum's just a soft suggestion that you could always do more.
Okay.
The commission can't require it.
That's a fixed standard, non-discretionary, and fits what Bill is emphasizing about the purpose of a summary review. Okay. keep going.
So then we have the removal of 9.16F building design examples. For the discussion at the last meeting and Joe Chadwick's comments. And then the alternative compliance language has not changed since it was last reviewed by the commission.
Okay.
Oh, everything.
And H allows the adjustments.
I would just add the option just for organization that Jamie mentioned earlier of combining the remnants of the building standards section, which we took most of the substance out of that one, for good reason. But there's I like 1 or 2 bullet points left in there that we can merge into the subsequent section. It's an option for organization, for enhanced structure. It'd be 1 less section overall, but again, does not change the substance of anything that we've discussed so far.
Okay, do you have that? Would that change the numbers? We're gonna have to.
It would, yeah.
It gets shifted up 1 letter each one.
And where would you put it? Wonder.
I would probably recommend putting it after refused areas.
The unit configuration from the.
Yeah, so it'd be unit configuration, and then what's the other one? Utility and mechanical.
So those 2 sections, what are now, 4 and 5, you would move those after the below where they, I don't remember the number, right?
Yeah, so they would move from D to E. We'd put them at the end of E.
Okay, is everyone okay with that? Okay. Okay, then, is there anything else we need to review in terms of this text? Jamie and Dan, commission members?
I'll just do a quick search to make sure that we don't reference anything that needs to get changed, particularly relative to what the revised reference here. But I can do that while you guys continue.
Okay, then. So what we're going to do then is to make a motion to approve this proposed text change to the amendments with the finding that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan of development and the, what are the 2 words? The comprehensive plan and the plan of conservation and development with an effective date of whenever, after the notice is published. So I don't know when the notice is published, how long you need for that. So it has to be after that.
The notice could be published August 6th.
Okay.
Wait, sorry. Yeah, August 6th.
Okay.
So August 7th, maybe?
Well, yeah, why don't we make it effective August 15th or something, okay? Just with an effective date of August 15th. And again, the changes that we made, that we discussed this evening, are the deleting the impervious surface area, retaining the original definition. We chose the option of, I think, option 3 of the 3 options, and added the word, I think, common to that. And then we moved a subsection to later for organization purposes. I think we've all, those are the changes that I think we've agreed to this evening. Is there anything else, Jamie, or anyone else? Okay. So with that, then, does someone want to make that motion to approve these proposed text changes with those findings of consistency with the plan of conservation and development and the comprehensive plan with an effective date of August 15th?
Could I request August 14th? The 15th is a Saturday. We have to file it into town clerk's office.
Okay. It's got to be filed before. Yeah. You need to file it before that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm getting the wetland regulation and the planning zone. Wetland, you have to file it the day it becomes effective.
Yeah. It just has to be filed
Right
before the effective date. It doesn't matter. We can make it August 14th.
Either's fine.
Okay. With an effective date of August 14th, we'll make it a weekday. Just as long as the notice gets published.
Cool.
So, if that's okay, does someone want to make that motion?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Motion to approve as as summarized by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo,
In favor.
Joe Vayuzo,
In favor.
Marcy,
Marcy's in favor.
and the chair is also in favor. So that then brings us then to item number 5 on our agenda, which is Wayne Cook trustee and Wayne Cook, Catherine Marie Cook, applicants and owners. This is 596 East Main Street, 612 East Main Street, NFW Associates, 616 East Main Street. And the property address is 596, 612, 616 East Main Street. Special exception for a hospital, section 7.8, and associated grading, section 6.8. And you have a resolution that covers both those applications. And I think you sent that out with a slight tweak. Do you want to pull that up? And again, the issues that I think we closed the public hearing, and then there was some tweaking on the, I think that there was the land trust issue. I think that was the open space to the land trust, or the conservation easement to the land trust. And then there was the issue about the sidewalks. And then I think staff, in conjunction with what the applicant had represented, came up with a compromise resolution that doesn't hold up the project, but requires it, but allows an out if the Wetlands Commission denies the application. That was sort of my take of it. Jamie and Dan or Bill, do you want to review any of this, or summarize the highlights?
Sure. So pretty much standard language on the whereas is at the beginning of the application, including, I'll kind of pick out some of the unique ones. The commission finds that there are challenging site characteristics, including but not limited to wetlands and slopes, which complicate the installation of sidewalk along Route 1. And then for our conditions, we have prior to start of any site work, documentation, lots are merged, sewer access approval must be obtained. Conservation easement language shall include access to the Greenway Trail, commonly known as the Branford Trail, with conservation language be approved by town council and the accepting party. And then we have a very lengthy sidewalk condition to address comments and discussion at the last meeting, with the intention of allowing for deferred installation. It essentially requires the applicant to, within a 5-year window, go to inland wetlands, seeking approval for the sidewalk installation. And then part 3 basically acknowledges that if the wetlands agency denies an application, that an easement shall still be provided and remain in full force, and that a feasibility analysis has to be provided to both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetland Agency regarding that sidewalk installation, and codifying that the obligation to install the sidewalk runs with the land, and then modifications to site plans as necessary to comply with the Inland Wetland Permit and this approval. Prior to construction activities, pre-construction meeting with the zoning enforcement officer, erosion control inspections, can be combined with wetlands. This can be phased because there's a phase 1 and phase 2 erosion control plan. To document ongoing compliance with the erosion and sedimentation plans, copies of any erosion and sedimentation reports required by CT Deep Stormwater General Permit shall be submitted to the zoning enforcement officer upon completion. No blasting is reviewed as part of this approval. The hospital and convalescent home use is approved as outlined in the application materials. Any modification to the use from the application materials provided must be reviewed by the commission. Use must remain consistent with the zone. No residential use shall be permitted. Prior to certificate of zoning compliance or zoning authorization for the site, all site work shall be completed. Compliance of this condition may be addressed separately in a phased manner for each phase of construction. No additional signage or replacement lighting shall be installed without approval. and to ensure compliance with the zoning regulations, all landscaping must be maintained on an ongoing basis. I do just want to jump back to the sidewalk condition and point out that is with that 5-year window in the wetland approval, it also relates to it states prior to construction of phase 2 of the building or any future application for expansion, the principal use or principal building on the property shall submit. That's what triggers the submission of that feasibility study. Any questions?
Thanks, Jamie. And this resolution covers both the 6.8 and the special exception application. Is that correct?
Correct. They were both submitted under the same permit number for 6.8 grading and 7.9 or 7.8 the convalescent home use. And that's referenced here in the first section.
Okay. Questions, comments from members? Hearing none, does someone want to make a motion to adopt the draft resolution as presented by Jamie, and she just reviewed with us and shown on the screen as our decision to approve both the applications?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Motion by Fred to approve and adopt the resolution as our written memorandum of decision for these applications. Is there a second?
Chadwick,
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo,
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Bayuso,
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy,
Marcy's in favor.
and Chair is also in favor. So that application is approved. So that then brings us to new business. Going under item number 1. I understand this is 39 Brockett Point Road. This is a coastal site plan. And am I correct, Dan or Jamie, that this has been referred to deep and we're not prepared at that one?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. And then items number 2 and 3, these are an affordable housing applications, plural, for 100 Commercial Parkway. Looks like, and we will be scheduling a public hearing for this applications. Do we have a date for that or a suggested date?
Correct. It would be one of the meetings in September. Not 100% sure which one just yet.
Okay. And this is an 80 unit? Is that what it is?
I believe so.
Okay. And that's on 100 Commercial Parkway. So we'll have a public hearing coming up in September on those. Again, looks like it's a couple of applications. And item number 4, Jim Preddy, this is 54 and 60 North Main Street. 60 North Main Street, this is the special exception modification for the car wash, an architectural modification. Is the applicant ready to proceed on that one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Joe Porto, and I am appearing on behalf of the applicant. So if you're all ready, I can start and I can introduce myself again. Joe Porto, I practice law with Porto. Our office is located at 2319 Whitney Avenue in Hamden. Before you this evening with regard to our representation of Mr. Magnotta, who is the applicant for 60 North Main Street, the commission may require in 2022, which brings us back to COVID. We appeared before this commission and the commission saw fit to grant a special exception application to allow for the proposed use at that time, which was a car wash. During the development phase, Mr. Magnotta has made a aesthetic change essentially to the building. The use remains exactly the same. The location remains exactly the same. The landscaping is the same. The parking is the same. Essentially everything is the exact same, except there has been a architectural change to include what I'm referring to as a second tower, if you will. We think the aesthetics are more pleasing, picks up some of the architectural treatments for the firehouse across the street, and continues to be in line or aligned with the other requirements for special exception approval. And we respectfully ask that the commission act favorably upon the present application, and Mr. Magnotta is available, along with myself, to answer any questions the commission may have.
Chuck Anderson, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Porto. Jamie, did you do a staff report on this?
He did. Janie Frederick, as was outlined, special exception approval was obtained for car wash and associated to explain grading and earthwork activities. They're looking to modify the special exception because there's a change to the architecture of the building. The applicant has requested that the public hearing requirement be waived for this application, which I would be in support of if the commission so finds it's appropriate to do so. A foundation only permit has been issued at this time because the location is in the same location, and site work has started and to keep them moving. The biggest difference is the height. The approved height was 32.5 feet. The proposed height is 39.3. Building location, floor area, site circulation, parking, vacuuming spaces, dumpster location, impervious surface ratio, stormwater management, and landscaping are unchanged. On the top here, you're seeing the elevations from the special exception that was approved, or special exceptions that have been approved. And then below here is the revised architecture of the building. Given the height relative to the maximum height allowed in the zone, I thought it was appropriate to let the commission see the revision and identify if you have any concerns. The special exception criteria that pertain to building design I've copied below, essentially looking at ensuring that it's attractive and suitable to the relative site location and immediate area, that it's location, nature, and height of buildings are planned. I don't really want to read them all out for you, but they're there and I can scroll back up to them if you'd like. And so ultimately my recommendation is that should the commission decide to approve the special exception modification, the following findings and conditions are recommended. Finding that the commission waives the public hearing for the special exception modification per section 9.8 I-7 because the amendments are found to be of minor nature and do not materially alter the special exception, and a condition that all previous approvals remain in full force and effect as they may still apply.
Chuck Anderson, Chair. Thank you, Jamie. Does anyone have any comments? Looks like there's no changes to the layout. It's a change to a height and an architectural feature. Joe Chadwick, thoughts?
This is, in my opinion, this is totally benign, but I would add an extra condition. There is a car wash on the East Haven border next to the Shell station that has illuminated signage, computer-driven signage on the interior portion shining out of the windows. Our signage ordinance is not sufficiently clear to prohibit this, and it really is kind of garish and goofy. So I don't know if that was part of the motivation to raise the building and add glass in the tall space, or if there is actually office space going in there. I don't know, but I would put a condition that would restrict internal illuminated signs.
Are internal illuminated signs part of the original approval?
No.
Nor
I don't-
are we proposed, but Mr. Magnotta can weigh in on that. And I should have added, there is no build out of that interior space. There's no office use. There's no retail, residential. It's just architectural. There's no additional use beyond the use that we presented in 2022.
Okay. Does your client wish to address the interior signage question that Joe Chadwick raised?
No problem, Mr. Chadwick. The windows are just like Mr. Porto said. That's all truss system, so it's not going to be an office or anything. We're not looking to put any LED lights. I know the location you're talking about. It was actually kind of slick how they did that, I thought. I never saw it done before, but I know what you mean. We're not looking to do that. Just to bring to your attention, because I don't want to get in some future headache with you guys. We do have, while we're operational, some of the signage in the tunnel does light. If you know what I mean, anytime you go
Yeah,
through a car wash, the car
that's
wash sign.
understandable.
All right, so yeah, but no, not the towers. There's nothing in the windows that illuminate above, let's say, the tunnel height. So none of the windows in the tower will have like LEDs behind them.
Okay. So is the language is no, there shall be no, how do you want to phrase this, Joe? Do you, no, um,
So there'd be no signage, right? I think that's the concern. No illuminated signage emanating from the interior of the building.
does that cover it, Joe?
Sure.
Any way you guys can word it to put for the tower windows at least?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
illuminated advertising.
Well, signage, so for illuminated signage on the addition, in the additional.
In
Is
the
it
interior.
And
Tower windows. Yeah.
Tower.
in the tower windows? Okay.
That's 100% fine.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks, Joe. Fred Russo. Thoughts?
I'm perfectly fine with the alteration they want to do. I think it makes the building look even better than it originally did. I liked it the way it was before, but I think the double towers actually add a lot to it. And I think, just for whatever it's worth, if it doesn't work out as a car wash, it's a beautiful building for office space or whatever. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Thanks. And we can waive the public hearing. I think everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Vayuzo.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I have no problem with any of it. As long as that
Okay.
signage situation was resolved. Other than that, the rest is fine.
Okay. Marcy.
Hi. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. I'm okay with it as well. Okay, then, someone want to make a motion to approve the application with the finding that we waive the public hearing because we find it to be a minor nature and not material altering the special exception and the two conditions suggested by Jamie, that one, there should be no illuminated signage within the lower windows or within the tower windows, excuse me. And number two, all previous approvals remain in full force and effect as they may still apply.
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion to approve with those findings and conditions by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo will second it.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo,
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuzo,
Joe in favor.
Marcy,
Marcy's in favor.
and Chair's also in favor.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your time and have a pleasant rest of your evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Porto.
Minutes. Council.
Minutes. I think the July 9th minutes, they were sent out, I believe. And does someone want to make a motion with respect to the July 9th minutes?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Motion to approve the July 9th minutes by Fred. Is there a second?
Joe Vayuso seconds.
Second, Joe Vayuso. Any further discussion? All in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo,
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuso,
Vayuso in favor.
Marcy,
Marcy's in favor.
and Chair's also in favor. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence, Jamie or Dan?
No correspondence.
No correspondence. Other business. Item number 1, informal discussion. Development of 246 units of multifamily housing and 133 townhouses, 1 and 2 bedrooms at 49 Commercial Parkway and 81 111 Commercial Parkway, total of 397 units. Attorney Marjorie Shansky is representing Highview Commercial LLC. Just the preamble here again, this is an informal discussion. This is, which is authorized by statute and our regulations. We are not making any decisions. We have not heard from the public, but we do allow these preliminary discussions. But nothing here can be used with respect if you should at some point later file an application reference into that. So with that, Ms. Shansky, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr.
Chuck?
Chairman.
Yes,
Sorry, Joe Vayus, I'm sorry, Mr. Shanky. I have one question before we start.
sure.
The application we were just, for a public hearing is 100 Commercial Parkway, and the informal discussion is 81 to 111 Commercial Parkway. Is this the same thing, or is this across the street?
It's across the street.
Or so this is a different part of the property.
Correct,
right?
correct. There's an 830G across the street that is proposed of 80 units. This is 397 units at the old.
I wasn't sure because
Amazon
the odd
site.
and even numbers, I thought that for sure, but I just wanted to clarify, that's all.
Sure. No, yeah, that's correct.
Right, thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I've interrupted.
Not a problem. I did a double take when I saw the agenda as well. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky, and I represent Highview Commercial, and we're happy and appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and introduce you to the proposed development. I'm here this evening with Mr. Dave Gunya and Mr. John Abeen of Highview Commercial, who is the contract purchaser of the properties. And I'm also here with Matt Bruton from BL Companies, who are the site designers. The properties are located in the BL zoning district, consist of over 21 acres. And this development is being proposed under the Inclusionary Housing District, the IHOD, Section 5.7 of the Branford zoning regulations. 20% of the units will be affordable at 80% AMI. And it's divided as the short notice provides into townhouses and multifamily housing. The properties satisfy, I would suggest, the location criteria of Section 5.7.B.3 in that they are close to public transportation and which includes bus routes. And they are certainly in an area of concentrated development. The site plans that we're going to show you this evening have zoning charts that demonstrate that we are using the standards in the underlying zoning district, with the exception of height, partially governed by the idiosyncrasies of the topography of the site, and also a bit by the under-building garages, which reduce imperviousness and have the effect of pushing the building a bit skyward. So with that, I give you Matt Bruton, who can talk about the details of the project with you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Marjorie. Good evening, everybody. Again, for the record, my name is Matthew Bruton. I'm a civil engineer registered in the state of Connecticut, employed by BL Companies at 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. If I have permission to share my screen, I'll do that now. And I'll just show you this real quick. Commissioner, just to give you a sense from Google Earth before I jump to the site plan, the proposed project and the existing site that we're talking about here is along Commercial Parkway, where my mouse is floating here now. The other application that was discussed earlier and continued is across the street, in the small wooded area here. So just to give you the relation between the two projects. Before I dive into some of the existing conditions, just want to lay out that this development team, Marjorie and myself, are aware that we have been working with the town and a WPCA town engineer on sewer capacity for the area. We know that that's an ongoing issue, and we're working with them to see if we can find some resolution that would help support this project. But with that aside, obviously, there's this is a decent sized project. We wanted to come to you guys informally to kind of gain some feedback that would help inform us moving forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So as Marjorie mentioned, right, approximately a 21-acre parcel on Commercial Parkway here. I'm circling again with my mouse. Obviously, known abutters for those familiar is obviously exit 53. That runs along the side of the property. You have the commuter lot down here. You have a residential development on Montoya Circle. You have the Walmart across the street, and then at the dead end, probably more popular is the Box Church kind of plaza back here. In general, it's vacant property, as you can tell from this aerial that I'm showing in front of you. Obviously been previously developed, so you can see the remnants of old parking lots and concrete slabs, and obviously a small amount of overgrowth area on the property. There are no wetlands on the property, but there is a small pocket of wetlands adjacent to the exit ramp. There is a small area within the upland review area, and I can show you that on the proposed map in a bit. This is outside of the coastal boundary, and there are plenty of utilities available within the commercial parkway, and unfortunately a little bit on our property, because when commercial parkway was relocated ever so long ago, a lot of those utilities did not follow the roadway, and I can show you that as well. I'm going to bring up the colored site plan that we have here. So just to reorient you, commercial parkway is here. The Walmart would be to the top of the page here. Box Church and that plaza would be to the end. Exit 53 along the bottom. So what we do show here, as Marjorie introduced, is obviously a multi-family development. You can see everything here in kind of this kind of softer brown color is proposed structure. The gray color we have here is the proposed parking and drive aisles, driveways, and everything green here would be, proposed landscaped areas. So in general, obviously, close to 400 units of different, two different types of apartments, kind of slash townhouses. There's obviously an adequate amount of parking spaces. You guys require around 750 parking spaces for the amount of units proposed here. We're a little over that, around 829. We do show as well, walk you around the site, we do show a centralized clubhouse area with a pool and fire pits, a dog park and some recreation space. We do show obviously some driveways along Commercial Parkway here, 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 and here to provide access, obviously, for residents, visitors, and the as appropriate emergency services. We do show potential for stormwater management in several areas of surface level parking. There is, as people may be aware, there is some electric and power lines that currently traverse the property. So we have left some room for those items as well. We do obviously show the appropriate amount of parking spaces, some loading spaces, refuse areas, crosswalks, handicap parking spaces, as you would expect. High level, obviously, you guys have seen this property many times before. The last application, I believe, that was approved here was the delivery station that was approved. Obviously, that never, was approved by you guys, but never moved forward towards construction. The parcel has sat vacant since. We're hoping, this could be something that could be a great replacement, as Marjorie said, with the zoning placed here. One of the challenges of this property is the topography. So if I jump to a black and white version of this plan for everyone to see, I've highlighted one of the contours here at the end of the cul-de-sac around elevation 71. As you kind of traverse down Commercial Parkway and get towards the corner of the property, we're at elevation 48. So we're dealing with a 23-foot drop in grade across the parcel. So as you can imagine, with the delivery stations, that was a very big technical challenge for this property. That'll continue here as well with this layout. Something to show you else as well is the existing water, gas, and some utilities that were in a former location of Commercial Parkway still do traverse the site. There's obviously some ability for us to keep those in place and move those around to continue to provide service to the surrounding businesses and to also support the proposed development here. Also show you as well this area that I'm going to highlight here is off against the exit 53 connector. There's a small area here that does fall in the upland review area on our property. Again, very small area in the lower corner here. As Marjorie said, trying to comply with these IHOD regulations minus the height because of the architecture that we're looking to pursue and the challenges in topography and things that are related to the property. But that is a kind of a quick high-level overview of some of the existing conditions and proposed conditions. Happy to answer any questions or concerns you guys may have as we're looking to move this forward. But I'll leave it there and pass it either back to Marjorie or to Dave to discuss some of the architectural and more operational things that they're looking to do on site here.
Marjorie, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave, would you like to speak to the commission?
Sure, I can walk through the architecture. I'm just going to need some help with the presentations.
Okay, I think I can.
I got it here, Dave.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's perfect. So for the site, we're looking at constructing a 3-story walk-up 1 and 2 bedroom apartment homes. So the building that you see in front of you, this is a 3-story, we call it a 19-unit building. It actually has garages on the lower level. So out of 19 units, there's 15 one-car garages, and the floor plan is not visible here, but immediately behind the garages are some storage closets. And then there are some units on the first level on the back side of the garages. And then on the second and third floor, you would walk up 2 flights of stairs to get to each of those levels. The construction on the exterior would be, natural looking stone with, hardy plank or vinyl siding, shingled roofs, and the detailing is designed to be the taller or more attractive roofs with 8 on 12 roof pitches, which is creating the height situation that we have or contributing to it. We do believe it's an attractive looking building, so we're hoping to keep the roof pitches as they are designed, and would seek feedback on that. Matt, I'm not sure if you can show a floor plan. I don't know if we had that in our package, or if not, the units themselves are spacious, 1 and 2 bedroom. They range in size from about 750 square feet on the smaller side up to about 1,250 to 1,300 square feet. Each has, a 1 bedroom would have, a full bathroom. A 2 bedroom would have 2 bathrooms. And the interior appointments would be furniture grade kitchen cabinets and bathroom vanities, granite over quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, tiled bathrooms and surrounds. It's a very attractive product. So Matt, if you have the other elevation for the 3-story walk-up apartment. Again, this is the 24. We have 2 building types, the 24 and a 36 unit. The unit types are the same in both, and in both would include a combination of 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom apartment homes. Each would have either 1 or 2 bathrooms. The elevations would be somewhat, similar to the 19-unit building with natural looking stone and hardy plank siding on the exteriors, vinyl windows, shingled roofs. And I apologize, it doesn't appear that we have a floor plan available, but I'm happy to take any questions on on the architecture. But we believe that, the product type is attractive and it would work very well with the property and works well with the topography because some of the buildings on the lower end, we could actually put basements underneath. So that would work very well with the sloping nature of that end of the property. Okay, with that, Marjorie, I guess I'll turn it back over to you, or I'll take any questions that any of the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Chairman, it's an overlay zone. It's a special permit. And so it will have significant review by the commission at the point of actual application.
Thank you, Ms. Shansky. Is that it? Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Shansky. I'm gonna we'll ask commission members to comment, but first I had a question for our town attorney, Mr. Yanukovych. I know that the applicant alluded to issues with sewers, and I know we've had in the past, within the last 5 years, someone else has proposed a large multifamily development on this site and had an informal hearing about it, and I don't believe that ever went forward. Mr. Yanukovych, I don't know if there's any overview you can tell us in terms of on the sewer issue, where things stand on that, or just give a general overview.
Or Mr. Chairman, Bill Yanukovych, town attorney. As many of the commission members know, there are significant existing sewer capacity issues on the Western Trunk Line. The WPCA has engaged AECOM to conduct an analysis and make recommendations, which they have. And those recommendations are aimed as a threshold matter at reducing what is now a system that's operating at overcapacity. And so the town has identified this as a priority in terms of bringing ourselves within the permitted capacity. Any future development at this site, as well as the site on the previous 830G application that was discussed earlier, would require expanded sewer capacity. I know that this applicant and the other applicant are in conversations with WPCA, and we'll continue those conversations. But at this time, I think it goes without saying that there are some significant capacity issues at the site.
Thank you, Mr. Yanukovych. Okay, so let's get some reaction, I guess. That's what the applicant's looking for. Joe Chadwick, thoughts? Joe?
Sorry, my mouse was not behaving for my
Sure.
Unmute. Seems like a lot of units. I don't know what effect this is going to have traffic-wise at the intersection, but at some point a traffic study will tell us that. They seem awfully tall, but then again, there is no. This site is its own context, so it's not like there's anything to refer to. This is a fairly hermetic, self-contained thing. I mean, it's the design is extraordinarily generic, and there's a lot of units packed in here, and I don't know. I'll be interested to see how this thing develops. But what I'm seeing for elevations doesn't seem to be anything that respects a response to the site gradient. The theory, in at least the initial presentation, was that the site gradient contributed to the height. I wasn't seeing that in the elevations. They were all sort of flat buildings, which I understand are, presentation stuff. But I have nothing one way or another on this right now.
Thanks, Joe. Fred Russo, Fred?
Yeah, what I see is because of the size of this project, it's really creating a neighborhood within a commercial zone, in a commercial area. It's huge. It just is. And if the reverse were true, and we wanted to put a commercial project in the center of a neighborhood this size, there'd be a lot of objections from the homeowners and probably from commission members as well. Although I don't speak for everyone, I speak for myself. I just can't imagine. Listen, I don't have an objection with the concept of what they want to do, but the size of it and where it's located, I don't think it's appropriate for that area and the other surrounding neighbors. It's a commercial piece of property. As much as I appreciate any applicant that comes in and wants to do something for the town, I just don't see this as a good fit for that piece of property. Much too big. I think in another location it might work very, very well. I have no concerns about what the architectural designs are. Those things can be changed. It's a matter of stroke of the pen. But just when I look at the size of all this, I don't think it's a good fit. That's my opinion at this point. Could change, we'll hear more about it, but at the moment, that's my first blush at this thing.
Thanks, Fred. Joe Vayuzo?
Yeah, I have pretty much the same concerns that were just mentioned. The biggest thing, well, not the biggest thing, but a large situation is that sewer system. If it's over capacity now, what's the fix? With another 400 units plus a possible situation across the street plus whatever. I mean, how does that get fixed to the capacity that they're talking here? I don't know. We have to hear from the experts on that. Like you said, Chuck, a couple of years ago, give or take, someone else was introducing something similar to this, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it fell through because of the sewer system not being able to handle this additional units. So that's one thing. Then, of course, we're going to be talking about traffic, and the crux of the problem for anything that goes here is that one direction entrance exit on 95. That the lack of northbound entrance and exit, which is going to impact from where this project is on North Main Street all the way to Cedar Street. I mean, it's no matter what goes there, any kind of traffic is going to go. We're going to have a problem. Anything going needs to be coming from the east or going east. We got a serious problem already. Well, I shouldn't say problem. Serious situation on North Main Street already. When you're approaching Cedar Street, the traffic is backed up, especially during drive times, to get through that intersection, and it's not an easy. I don't know what the easy fix is. I mean, as far as that, the traffic is going to be increased quite a bit. I mean, you're talking 400 units, if possible, if this happens to go through, plus the possibility of what's happening across the street, plus the possibility of whatever else might be going out someplace which is irrelevant right now. But the traffic issue is going to be a major situation because of that bottleneck or that situation of only the northbound situation on getting on 95 or getting off 95. That North Main Street is going to be another. The two biggest issues in my book right now is the sewer system and the traffic. And without even saying the density, I mean, look at this thing. I mean, they're taking every square inch of property and squeezing as many buildings as they possibly could, and along with the height and whatever. And it's like anything else, they're going to the max, and that's business, I guess. But still, it to me it doesn't look appealing. It almost looks like a co-op city situation. So that's my feeling right now. I mean, we got to hear from sewer authority. We have to see what they come up with on traffic, especially northbound. Not eastbound on North Main Street. So right now, that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Marcy?
Could you put the drawing back up? It's easier to talk to a picture.
Yep, 1 second. Here you go.
Yeah, so I just tend to think in relative terms. So I'm sitting here trying to get a sense of what, say there's 2 cars per unit, so 400 to 800 cars does to traffic, and how that would compare to the Amazon application that was approved there. And similarly, how much more intense would a residential product affect the sewers as compared to what the Amazon product did? I mean, it's just it's really just hard to kind of visualize things, and I think that's partly what's happening when you look at a drawing that's at 100, 200 scale, and you see boxes that are meant to represent 3-story buildings or 3 stories with the garage under, and the elevations help to see a little undulation, but they still basically are quite rectilinear, and it's very hard to visualize what the experiences would be on the site in terms of what the space would feel like between the buildings. Um, if those buildings are 40 to 50 feet wide, is that about the width that that one spine of trees is, or the courtyard between them to another, so are you like a 1-to-1 relationship, and is that sloping tree space because of the grade going from left to right going to feel like usable outdoor space, or is that just going to feel like visual outdoor space? So I'm really just trying to, and I didn't really hear much other than there's a pool and patio and a dog park. I really didn't hear much about the pedestrian movement or the outdoor experience for something that's so many units. I'm just trying to get a sense of how this creates a neighborhood, because it really has to be its own neighborhood given the way that it's bounded by commercial parkway and the connector and so forth. So I just I just am having a hard time visualizing on a pedestrian level. I'm not seeing a lot of plantings being proposed, when I think with the residential application, typically you would be able to see a lot of plantings proposed. And again, we all know that there's issues with traffic at that intersection. We all know that there's issues with the sewer. I'm not sure how you come to a solution with the town to make that be, work towards solving a problem as opposed to exasperating a problem. But that's really kind of my initial reaction. Oh, I forgot the big one. We've got an aging demographic, so maybe you've got 2-bedroom units, and if it's a 2-bedroom unit, is it going to be more child dense or aging, the population? And I can't see an aging population wanting to walk up 2, 3 flights of stairs if they're on the 3rd floor unit. And I assume, based on the shape of these buildings, that these are center corridor loaded buildings from the interior. They're not they're not exterior entry. So, why can't we have elevators? That would definitely help a need that I think it's in our PUD, that we've got the aging community, so it really doesn't help that need for the town. I mean, I know it's a cost factor, but the buildings having elevators, I think is important for a project like this. If you're going to propose a project that has so many units per building. And I know we've seen other residential projects proposed for this, and I feel like I had a completely different reaction to the layout, and I don't remember specifically what the unit count was or the mix was that made me feel that way. I can certainly understand how this solution was arrived at, given the program to have these types of units in the building. So I can see how you arrived at it. I don't know um, I don't know what other solutions and concepts you consider to settle in on this one and what's driving this solution versus maybe something that was a little more natural looking in terms of road layout or something along those lines. So those are just the kind of questions I would be looking to hear answered in a more detailed application.
Thanks, Marcy. Sharon?
Since the hour is getting late, I don't want to belabor the point, but I have to agree with everybody who has gone before me. I don't know that much about sewers, so I don't know exactly how that problem will get handled, but I live close to this area and the traffic is horrendous. The lanes are already blocked and people can't get through, and it's just a traffic nightmare. So that is one issue. The density is way too dense for Branford, and so I just agree with what everybody else is saying about this kind of development in this particular spot.
Thanks, Sharon. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Dave Dyer. I agree with all the other commissioners. The sewer's a big thing. I don't live close to the Walmart situation there, but I do travel that a lot, and it is so congested. Just imagine another 800 cars, added to that location. And like Joe Chadwick said about the, you just have, coming northbound, you have exit 53, and there's no other way to get north unless you drive into town, and, but I just agree with everybody else. It just doesn't seem feasible at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'm probably repetitive. Obviously, the sewer issue that's got to be worked out. The issue with the traffic is we have 5 stoplights in a quarter of a mile. And they're cramped, and you have stacking problems, and it's tenuous. And we know there's been discussion about reorienting the exit 53 ramp so that it goes on to Commercial Parkway to eliminate one of the lights. Typically for a real large project, and I'm old enough to remember Walmart when they came in, there was put a lot of money into to reconfigure the pretzel. And this is a large project. I mean, I would be curious if the developer has proposals to, I know that's, or a contribution or something to address this perennial problem there that's of so many stoplights right in the area there. That's what that's where big projects can help out like that. So that's a concern about the traffic. I'm experiencing a little bit of, I guess, multifamily fatigue, just because we have approved a lot of multifamily projects. The Regal site, we recently approved. It's 172 units. Metro Star on the other side, that's 144 units. Now there's one going across the street for 80 units. I know, and if you go back, Nishansky, Mariners Landing, that was, I don't know, 150 units, somewhere around that. So the idea is, the concern is, yeah, we've been approving a lot of these. There's some concern about it, and there's nothing really that grabs you about this. And people have mentioned that it's sort of generic. The density seems high. I would prefer the townhouses construction. We just approved some middle housing. How would that look on the site? 6 to 9 unit lots or something. Those are the things that are kind of those are my first reactions. So, anyone else want to add anything?
I think Marcy had a really good point about the aging population and the distribution of buildings and the homogeneity of the buildings. And I, for one, and I can imagine no one else would be interested in hearing this, but I would be interested in seeing a few taller buildings to make an elevator worthwhile in order to get a reduced height on some of the other buildings and maybe a little more open space. But again, that's just my preferences. But in order to have an elevator work out for an aging population, you need density and height. And I would feel that a few buildings that are a little taller in order to make the trade-off for lower other buildings would not be a bad thing. But again, this is not speaking to the traffic issue that we're all concerned about, which will come out of needs to be studied. But this is just relative to height and mass.
Thanks, Joe. Any other comments from anyone? Any comments by staff you'd like to make at this time, or Attorney Yanukovych? Okay, hearing none then, Ms. Shansky, there you go. Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is extremely illuminating. Obviously, it gives us a lot to talk about. We understand the burden of an applicant, no matter what the subject matter of the application is, and are certainly not oblivious to the issues that have been raised by the commission. And so we'll study it up. I'm very interested in Commissioner Chadwick's last recommendation, although I'm curious, under the current regulatory regime, how one would achieve that, but it's a very provocative idea. So thank you very much for spending this time with us. We appreciate it. And I think Mr. Bruton has something, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just 2 minutes just to add, because I echo Marjorie's thanks in your input to help us guide us as we're looking through this further. Couple items. BL Companies has obviously done several traffic studies over the years on this property in regards to the pretzel, right? So we're very, very, very aware of the traffic concerns with the close density of all the roads, all the traffic signals. There's a lot of different options to approach that to improve it as it is, right now, plus if there's ever future development. So obviously the size of this development would trigger a traffic study, not only locally, but at the state level, OSTA level. So that was obviously something that we would, if for this to move forward, we'd obviously provide for the town review and the state review. So that is eyes wide open on that from that end. In terms of the density, I heard that from basically everybody, too dense. I think it's, just to give you a little context, obviously this is a large lot, 20 acres is quite big compared to some of the residential butters like Walmart. Just to give you guys context, and I highlighted these in the tables here, max net residential density is 20 units per acre. We're at 18. Max impervious coverage, 70%. We're at 55. Same thing. There's two technically lots here. Same thing on the other one. 19 versus 20, 57 versus 70. So I did a high level gloss of some of the, clubhouse, pool, right? Some of the formal amenities. There's obviously expansive amount of grass between these buildings for that neighborhood feel. So just wanted to give you some of those numbers for context of density and the feel of that compared to some of the regulations compared to the size of the property. And obviously, as we move forward, I think I heard a lot of relations of height versus topography versus the feel of the neighborhood. So that's obviously something we can work on to display in a little bit more. I think just to show you, obviously, is the elevations that Dave spoke about earlier. I think Mr. Chadwick's point is well taken, and the aging population is well taken. This could easily be a flat roof and comply with the height. We don't think that looks good. We don't think you would think that would look good. That's not a New England feel, right? So, we're trying to gauge your feeling on the look of the architecture. But again, we don't think a flat roof and complying with that number, especially with the challenges of topography and garages, made sense wrapped together. But we can certainly take that into consideration. But just want to let you know that we weren't blind to that. We're asking for something a little bit different here. But we thought a peaked roof in general looks a lot better, whether it's a townhouse, apartment, or something else. So just wanted to put those things out there. And again, appreciate you guys' input. It's very, very helpful at this stage for the designers and obviously for the applicant.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on with our agenda. Marcy.
I just want to kind of echo Joe's. I mean, I know, you're trying to respect the limits to have one less thing that's, you don't have to go through ZBA, but, this is such a large area that, variety of architecture, I think, is important, but also, I'd like to see moving forward in a future presentation what the ground level feel is for the pedestrian. So a lot of times people do cross sections and they exaggerate the vertical scale. I would respectfully ask you not to exaggerate the vertical scale so that we can really get a sense of what the change would be between buildings. Because I know you had said that one area there was a lot of space, and I had looked on the one drawing, and I don't know if they were 2 foot or 1 foot contours, but I think there's like 10 feet between the buildings, and that's going to have that's going to communicate a different story between the buildings than if it was a flat courtyard that you could throw a football in. So I think my biggest advice is, other than varying the architecture, is really bringing it down to scale, and because it's such a large site, use that to, push the boundaries of what you can do with the space. There's you don't have to add 600 units to push the boundaries. You can take that same 4 and reposition, and there may be things about, what you can create with land movement or berms or things like that could really change the character of the place and have it not feel so repetitive. Because one of those buildings by itself is fine, right? It's when you start to see 6 of them together or 2 and then across, and it's like then it starts to feel like even college campuses they have quads, but no 2 quads are necessarily the same. And I think that, this almost wants to have a campus-like feel that you might see in a residential side of a college, maybe just as a model to consider. And obviously, we've talked about all the other issues, but, I love the design, so I appreciate you humoring me on that.
Thanks, Marcy. Anyone else? Okay. Good
Mr.
luck,
Chairman,
Machansky.
thank you, and enjoy your recess.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the planner's report. Jamie?
Jamie Frederick. As Chuck indicated at the beginning of the meeting, I've been promoted to Director of Planning, Conservation, and Development. I'm happy to continue to work with the commission. And we'll be looking to fill the Deputy Director position and also the Special Project Coordinator position, which was funded for this fiscal year. And then I also just want to let the commission know, particularly as we will be taking the month of August off, we did receive an application yesterday, PZ 2639 for 569 and 573 East Main Street for a PDD map amendment for a wholesale club and gas station commercial uses. The commission did have a preliminary discussion regarding this project at your last meeting. So just wanted to get that on your radar. And that's all I've got, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Jamie. Does anyone else have anything?
Fred Russo. Go ahead, Sharon. Go ahead.
Thanks, Fred. Sharon Hutner here. I have a question actually for Bill. I'm glad that he's on the Zoom with us. A lot of these as if discussions that we have get leaked out to the public, and they're not official applications. And I'm just wondering where the ethical boundary is when a resident approaches me, for instance, and has questions about these applications. So I'm curious as to whether talking about these issues is ethical or not. So I would appreciate some guidance.
Sharon, Bill Anisco, town attorney. Sharon, that is an excellent question. It is late, but and we can revisit this at a future meeting in a more formal way, like we did with ex parte communications. But I'll say this: as the chairman pointed out at the beginning of this discussion, our regulations and state statute allow but do not require these sorts of informal presentations. So we have to start there, right? That these are conversations about proposals in a pre-application phase. And so the ex parte rules that we discussed about talking with folks outside of or after the fact of these conversations do not run afoul of any ethical rules, in the sense that there's no application before you. For example, Chuck and Joe Viuso spoke to a proposal for a development in that area of 100 Commercial Parkway that came before the commission informally and then never went anywhere due to sewer issues. So these kinds of discussions are merely that, and in that sense, you're free to speak about those things here and with others as you deem fit. Now, having said that, I would I would caution you that the single most important rule to keep in mind is prejudgment. You do not want to say anything here in the context of the meeting or anywhere else that would lend any credibility to a claim that you had prejudged an application, that you weren't going to listen without judgment to the presentation if and when an application came. And I think that giving input can sometimes lead members to say things that might appear as though they have prejudged an application, and you want to steer away from those kinds of definitive statements. Speaking specifically to different aspects of how a proposal as presented informally might or might not run up against the regular is perfectly fine. Making general statements about a project would potentially get you in trouble, and by trouble I mean you might be open to being disqualified to be seated on an application if it ever came to fruition. I hope that helps in answer your question. I think that's what you were getting at.
Yes, absolutely. That clarifies a lot. I appreciate it. And just one more thing. Congratulations, Jamie.
Yeah, amen.
Fred, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing that Sharon said about congratulating Jamie. So congratulations, Jamie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to add, again, congratulations, Jamie, on her promotion to director. And I wanted to thank all the commission members for their hard work on this shortened window. I'm glad we got these regulation revisions in place tonight, and we're compliant with state law, so everyone can pat themselves in the back.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Anyone else have anything? Okay, then I think we're off for August. So we'll see everyone September 3rd, I think. So someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Fred makes the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Marcy, a second.
Second by Marcy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick,
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo,
Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuso,
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy,
I'm in favor, and have a good vacation, everyone.
and Chair is also in favor. So good night, everyone.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.